Hey, this is Josh, and I am your guide for Guitars Ruin Lives, where we are restoring guitars to their rightful place as disturbers of the perfect. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm here today to talk finally about my Chapman ML-1 Norseman, and I'm going to tell you all about it, but let's just hear it right out of the gate, doing what it was designed to do. So as you've probably gathered, that's probably not exactly what the folks at Chapman Guitars and Evenstad Music in Sweden, who designed it with them, had in mind for the Norseman, but I'm making a point, which is that it's an incredibly versatile guitar. I'm using my super hi-fi setup here to show you the guitar. So the finish is yarn. I think I'm saying that exactly right. So you can see it's this kind of see-through bluish white finish, and it does have that slight bluish color in person, not because there's actually blue in the finish as far as I can tell, but because it's just the way that the maple rather shows through. And as advertised, it does have the full 5mm cap, which I'll say isn't as big in person as 5mm sounds, but I measured it and it is 5mm, and that is a proper cap. It's not a veneer. Okay, quick rundown on the geeky stuff. It's a mahogany guitar. It's got a mahogany neck. It's got an ebony fingerboard. It has a lot of premium features, and in their pro range, you know, Chapman is doing their whole company different. They're running it like they're in the 21st century. It's like, how would you run a guitar company if you started a guitar company in the 21st century instead of just adopting old models? That's why I think they're smart. That's why I think they've got a good chance of sticking around. I'm real uncentered, and that's bothering me. I think they've got a good chance of sticking around, but more than anything, I just needed to find out what it was all about. Okay, is the neck really that great? It's made, you know, factory similar to many other good companies that are making good guitars in Korea. This is a Korean-made one. The professional line is made in their higher-end stuff's made in the Korean plant. But I had to figure out what the deal is. So again, geeky stuff. You've got the woods we talked about. The pickups are made by Chapman Guitars. You may see that I've got mine flipped, and I'll talk about that here in a bit. The bridge is a Floyd Rose 1000. That's a Korean-made Floyd Rose. The tuners are quite nice. This is the Hipshot USA open geared tuners. Of course, they're not locking because the nut is locking. So they've got some premium features, mainly, most of all, the differentiator being the stainless steel frets, which I've never had before. Not a huge selling point for me personally, although I do like the fact that if I were to gig the living out of this guitar, I would never, ever, ever have to change the frets. For people playing this kind of guitar more standardly, as opposed to me, who's going to play like a dad guitar, that matters, because you want to know that you can just really riff the living shit out of these things and not run into problems with divots in your frets and all that. That's enough talking for now. Let's go back through it. And the purpose here is not to be a review. It's a demo. It's a walkthrough. We're talking about the guitar. So I'm going to get off of that delay sound and to a regular, proper clean tone, starting on the bridge pickup. That's not a clean tone, but it's as clean as I would ever really want this guitar, except for that last sound. Full disclosure, I'm using a Boss Katana, because I'm not here to make the most pristine audio quality thing. I'm here to give you an idea quickly about what the guitar does and what it's like. This is about a guitar being run in an average sort of condition. neck pickup. Back to the bridge. Right away, you're going to hear that it's mahogany. These things matter, end of discussion. It's mahogany. There's a great sustain, which I think is a combination of the woods and the build quality. These things are built very well. I have had the neck off of this thing, and when I put it back in, I had to really work it in there. It's a nice, tight, snug neck fit, which I don't think can be understated in terms of its importance in the sustain and the richness of the tone, and just the strings and the body and the hardware and everything talking to each other to get this overall positive feedback loop of vibration that makes a guitar a good guitar as far as resonance is concerned. It's got that rich mahogany mid-range. It's not a scoopy sound at all. It's not going to sound like a Les Paul because it has nothing to do with a Les Paul other than being mahogany, but it's further into that warm, fat, really embodied kind of like rich, throaty, chesty kind of tone. It works. One of my favorite things about this guitar, which I was very pleasantly pleased with, I shouldn't say surprised, is the low E is nice and tight. Just to hear that unplugged, it's really going to speak. These strings are pretty new and they're, to be fair, but the low E really speaks. Sometimes on a mahogany, I've had mahogany super strats before and they tend to be dull and thuddy, and the good qualities of the mahogany kind of are canceled out by the whole bolt-on thing, fighting the mahogany thing. Sometimes it seems like an alder or an ash super strat, basswood super strat. It's kind of the way it is for a reason, and everything sort of gets along. It's not going to give you all that richness of mahogany, but you get the best of those other woods. But in this case, the low E really still speaks. All the fat wound strings still really speak. And the clipping you're hearing there on the sound is not the guitar's fault. I have the action fairly low because I do have it set up for more of a shreddy metal guitar, and I play like somebody who plays acoustic guitar. So the flop you're getting up here is not the guitar's fault. Truss rod works great. Everything works like it's supposed to. Really growls. quick and I'll go back to a cleaner sound here in a minute. So the Stentorian pickup set are an Alnico set. I am certain about that on the neck pickup, and I'm next to certain about that on the bridge. No, I'll tell you right now, I'm certain. Fat enough, hot enough, but not crazy hot. They're gonna do what you want. They're gonna be a little bit hot, especially the bridge pickup for if you're trying to do any like true cleans untapped, but they give you the tapped option. So yeah, kind of in the range of, you know, nowhere near like a Duncan distortion or a DiMarzio super distortion, just to use some really well-known aftermarket pickups, but hotter than Pearly Gates, hotter than a PAF Pro, something that's pushing into the modern range of an Alnico, still more traditional PAF than not kind of pickup, but just a great growl, great grunt, but not too much so that it gets over mid-rangey and muddy in the low end. So let's talk about the coil tapping situation. As you heard I flipped my pickups. That is one thing that I don't prefer. When you have pickups like this, where when you tap, or rather split the coils, it defaults to the slug coil. There's nothing wrong with that, but my PRS 594 is the same way. In the default setting, the slug coils, of course, are on the outside. They're here and they're here. And that does something when you split the coils. What that means is your neck coil is way up here, further up the string, where the string oscillates more widely, and it's going to be a lot louder in general than the bridge coil, which is forced as close to the bridge as possible, smallest possible oscillation rate, and lower volume. On these pickups, it wasn't so much a volume balance issue. The Stentorian bridge was plenty hot. I don't know if they wound them asymmetrically or what to compensate. It was plenty loud enough in this position, but it just didn't give me the most satisfying sound. And the same on the neck position with it split here. It just sort of sounded like a quieter, more hollowed out neck pickup rather than sounding a little bit more like a neck strat pickup. My lighting sucks. I don't know if you guys have noticed, so, you know, live with it, deal with it like I do. Thank you. So what I did is I flipped this one to give me more of a truer stratty kind of sound, getting it further from the neck into a smaller oscillation. And I flipped this one to give me a little bit more body and not quite so much of a clanky, bright tone here. And the third thing, which is really the primary thing, is it gives me the Petrucci clean tone, which is what you heard in the beginning. Petrucci famously has his coils defaulted on his old Ibanez and his earlier JP guitars to have the inner coils activated, which gives you this beautiful, it's not the quackiest sound, it's just a beautiful clean tone in the middle with those two activated. Immediately you hear this. Do that. Try that out. See how that works. And it still works for the skunky sound. Go to the neck pickup again. We're still split, so you can hear that. pickup, I don't know why you'd ever use a bridge pickup tapped on its own. I mean, I really don't. That sounds freaking great. That just sounds like a P90. Now I know. That's pretty that I remembered it. And again, flipping it to me did give a nicer sound. Here's the reason we all really buy a Norseman. Browne Somebody's Baby recording, it sounds like the Strat player like just got a whammy bar because like everything's like yeah, so you heard all that, and then finally we have to do the metal a little bit, right? Woo! Chapman Norseman ML-1, that's the body shape. Norseman refers to all the appointments and the way that it is. And Chapman, I've got to say, you know, good product. Well done. I mean, it's exactly what it says it's going to be. And I don't think it could be any better at being what it is for the price point that it is. I think they've outdone themselves. And important to note, it comes with a really nice premium hard shell case. I don't think the case could be a whole lot nicer either. And that really is a feature worth mentioning. So, thank you so much for watching. I know you're already subscribed, all 12 of you, but I would love to have 13 or 13,000 or whatever. So if you get value from what I'm doing, that's what I'm about, is just bringing something valuable to your day through guitars and guitar madness and thinking about how we play them, why we play them more importantly, and what it's all about. And I'm here especially to try and be a voice, to be a voice of distinction in the guitar community, to try and, even though I'm doing gear reviews and stuff, the underlying message here is that we need to be playing music for a bigger purpose and try and get beyond the reviews and the profilers and the gear and the Instagram, you know, and all that stuff, and get to something real about why we started making music in the first place and what you want your legacy to be as a human being and as a musician. So remember, kids, guitars ruin lives. Your life will not ever be the same. And more than anything, remember, don't be perfect, be powerful. We'll see you next time.